You've heard a lot about bump stocks in recent days. That's a device that can turn a semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon that fires much more rapidly. King 5 political reporter Natalie Brand joins us with a new national proposal to ban them. Natalie.
And Washington Senators Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell have signed on to this legislation introduced today by California Senator Dianne Feinstein, who said enough is enough.
Some have said we shouldn't do this now. We should wait. Now is not the time. Ladies and gentlemen, when is the time going to be there?
I think we've reached a tipping point.
Some of the loudest voices on this issue are backing a proposal by more than 24 Senate Democrats to ban the sale, manufacture, and possession of so-called bump stocks. While it's unknown whether this latest proposal will make it to the floor in the Republican-controlled Congress,
I think it's particularly inappropriate to politicize an event like this.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was specifically asked about bump stocks during a news conference yesterday.
We're in the middle of the investigation. We'll see what that reveals, and at the end of that, there'd be an appropriate time to discuss it.
I'm not an expert on bump stocks, but all things that make America safer and don't infringe on the Second Amendment count me in.
This is the time for common sense measures.
Washington Governor Jay Inslee now calling for state lawmakers to consider its own legislation. A spokeswoman says the office is currently weighing several different ideas, looking at the federal Feinstein bill and assessing its own options at the state level.
We have all relatives who hunt and believe in self-protection, but these fully automatic weapons of war are not necessary. So this bump stock, which resulted in a massacre, which shot through the face one of our citizens, ought to be unacceptable in the state of Washington. It ought to be banned. I'll advocate for that as soon as the legislators are back into session.
So would state lawmakers be receptive to the governor's idea? Too early to really know. I've spent all day reaching out to key lawmakers and Republican senators in Olympia. Keep in mind, the Majority Coalition Caucus currently controls the state Senate, so they're key to legislation moving forward. Late this afternoon, I received this statement from Republican Senator Mike Patton, chair of Law and Justice Committee, who said, "We do a disservice if we jump to conclusions," but then went on to say, "I am willing to consider reasonable legislation that effectively addresses the issue and also protects constitutional rights." Meanwhile, Republican State Senator Steve O'Ban said this in part: "The potential for violence by a very small minority of the mentally ill is one of the reasons I've been dedicated to reforming and improving our mental health care system." So a couple of different ideas brought up there. I've also reached out to a few of the Democrats in the state legislature who are considered more pro-gun. They have not responded to my request for statements yet, not weighed in on this at all. This debate is not one that is straight down party lines, but we will hear more about it in the coming days and months.